Good morning, good morning. It's a lovely Saturday morning here in the west of Ireland. So much rain. It's been incredible and wonderful. But whilst it's been raining, and I've been sort of indoors a wee bit, I've been doing some sewing. So I've got my material out and my spools of thread, and look at this little handmade pincushion. And my machine. I treated myself to a machine, some time ago now. And it does a lot of different stitches, which is very useful for the kind of work that I'm sort of getting into. Okay, and I want to say thank you to Jackie. Jackie sent me a lovely card and a little gift and a beautiful little painting of a bee. And I'm going to show you the bread that I made this morning. So, been doing a massive amount of work outside as well, by the way. Don't think that I've just been working indoors, because in between showers I've been going out and getting quite a lot of heavy duty work done. So I've made some of my bread. You know, the recipe is the... Yes, Jack, we haven't forgotten you at all, right? The recipe is in the Bealtaine Cottage Guide to the Deep Midwinter book, and I made a loaf at the beginning of the week, and it was completely rye flour, which was delicious, quite dense and toasted up beautiful. This one is 50% rye flour and 50% strong wheat flour, and it's got some pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds added. And look, it's nice, and I've just cut it. And what I made last night, I'll just show you. I've had some strawberries as well for my breakfast. Got my ironing board out in here because I iron little bits of material before I sew them, you know. So what I made last night, it's in my fridge. This is fava dip. Okay, now fava is dried broad beans, and it's simply broad beans cooked down, or soaked and cooked. Then I whiz them up in the NutriBullet with garlic, lemon juice, the zest of a lemon, and some water. I think that was it, actually. Absolutely gorgeous dip, as nice, if not nicer, than the hummus. Now the recipe is very simple. I mean, I don't need to give quantities, because you can just, put in the quantities to taste, basically, which is what I do. I like a lot of garlic, so I put in 2 cloves of garlic, all right? It said loosely to use 250 grams of cooked fava beans, but I don't know. I don't weigh stuff. I just put it into the, processor, process it down. I think, that needs a wee bit more. So I just add as to taste. That's always the best way to cook. So there's no point in asking me for a recipe because I didn't write it down. So we'll go outside and do a wee bit of a catch up outside. So I've got some beautiful sweet peas coming. Look at this. Absolutely gorgeous. Very, very scented. Look at the lovely little insect on there. I've pinched out the growing tips because I don't want them growing up any higher than this. So beginning to get lots of little there's a little spider on there as well. Look at that. Made a little web. We're beginning to make a little web. Yeah. So pinched out the growing tips. So there's lots of flowers beginning to form on the bottom half of the plants, which is what you want. So I was given this old rocking chair, and it needs fixing. So that's the project now which is underway. Look, you see the little supports, the wee straps have come away. So I'm going to be fixing that and maybe even making a new cover for it, although the covers aren't bad. But it's a lovely little rocking chair. It's a very old-fashioned one. I think it's from about the 1950s. Harvested some onions, they're drying. Got some wonderful tomatoes coming on here. Very pleased with those. Been picking strawberries over the past couple of weeks. So lots and lots of strawberries coming on both plants. Look at this. And let's go around the front. I've got a cucumber plant here. You can see little cucumbers forming on it. Don't know how it's going to do because it's planted into a pot, so it's a bit of an experiment. We'll see how it goes. Okay. So I had to go down the driveway and trim back a lot of the overhanging trees and shrubs and bushes because the weight of the rain, brought them all down very low. So made it almost impossible to get up the driveway in a car. Not that that matters, park at the bottom and walk up. The beds are all beautifully refreshed now with the rain. So I've done a massive cut back of the Senecio here along the front. So I now can get to the front door without having to sort of come right out and then round. So you can see here I've been cutting back the clematis. Done a massive cut back from underneath the window, underneath the kitchen window. There's a lot more light coming into the kitchen now, and of course around the window, because the clematis had come down, sort of was covering a third to a half of the windows there at the front. So I've also done a massive cut back here. I've left quite a bushy bit here in the middle and here on the end, and you can see it's now covering the roof of the porch, which is lovely. Leaving that like that. Of course I did all this work. I think I showed you this the other day. Now I've also started work on the pond. Yeah, I know. I would wait until it started to rain, wouldn't I? But I suppose the thinking is, it's wet anyway, so don't fret. It's wet, don't fret. So I'm going to be cutting back a lot of the rubus, but as you can see, this is why I left it, because of course the bees have been pollinating all the fruits, and now there's lots and lots of fruits for the birds to enjoy and for me to enjoy as well. But sometime now in the next few weeks I will be reducing all the rubus by about 2/3. I'll be bringing it down to just above ground level. And of course that composts beautifully. It all adds to the build-up of soil. The more you can grow, the more biomass you can grow, the more soil you're going to have, because you're making compost. And even if you're not making compost, if you just throw it down on the soil, it'll compost on its own. It doesn't need you to direct it. Like the leaves do every year. They compost on their own. They turn into soil. What's not to like about it? So I started clearing the pond a little bit, and then I was sort of I started by cutting back around the pond. Do you hear the water flowing down in the ditch? The ditch is very deep down there, so probably can't see it. You can see where I cut back stuff, I throw it into the sort of the hedge and let that break down as well. Of course I don't need to stress, do I, that I do all this work on my own. I don't employ anyone. I love the way the colours have come out here in the hedgerow. They're lovely, the crocosmia and the fuchsia, and there's some willow herb and fern and dogwoods. It's just lovely. So here we go. So I've made a bit of a start. So you can see what I've done first of all is I've kind of got in here and hacked back, taken all the bits and then made a little, what I call a habitat pile further into the woodland. So I've been pulling out lots and lots of the pondweed, and of course it's coming out with the roots, and around the roots there's lots of silt. So, you know, again, it's a win-win thing, because wherever I put that down, I'm going to have lots of nutrition for plants. So you can see the dogwood here, which I just put in as a few cuttings a couple of years ago, is beautiful and lush. I'm leaving that. I've cut it back a little bit on the top, but I'm leaving the bulk of it because if that's going to go this beautiful bright red during the winter. So driving up the driveway, I'm going to have this beautiful clump of bright red, which is heartwarming and uplifting to see during the dark days of the winter. Now, I've piled up a lot of the stuff as well on this corner of the pond, because there is a bit of a leak on that corner where there was an old sort of drain that was dug, it could have been a couple of 100 years ago, that in actual fact goes underneath the road here and connects into this old ditch. So I'm not too bothered about that, because of course that just feeds the ditch all the time, and there's lots and lots of life over in the ditch that needs to have that. So but I do sort of throw lots of stuff that I cut back into that area, and that's sort of helping to form another little piece of land which the dogwoods will spread into, you know. So here we have this stream now. Do you remember it a few weeks ago? It was as dry as a bone. There was nothing flowing through here at all. So now we've got all this beautiful water, all the spring water, all the rain water, and it's flowing along. And that will possibly be the way of things now for much of the months ahead. I think we're past the drought stage. So my daughter said to me yesterday, she said, "Mum, what you need to do now is buy a few more rain barrels." So that's on my list of things to purchase in order to help assuage the worst of the effects of what is a change in climate. So you can see here, look, I've pulled out a lot of the pondweed, and it's a job I like doing. You know, it's hard on the back and hard on the arms and everything else, but you know, it's good, healthy work. We don't use our bodies half enough. And I love to be able to feed the trees and feed the shrubs and, you know, make little piles of food that turns into earth, like I've done here. You see, I've banked up quite a lot there, and I've stuck a few pieces of fuchsia that I cut out of the hedge into that, and that may probably root, and we'll have a nice fuchsia bush here on this end. So lots of work, and again, you know, do it a bit here, bit there, keep on keeping on, and eventually it all comes together, and people then say, "Do you do all that work yourself?" Well, yeah, I do, and there's no complaints. So we'll just walk on down to the end of the drive. Oh, look, there's the bees out, bless them. You know, come hail or shine. Look at this. Where did that wee thing go? Oh, they're flitting. They're flitting. They're like me doing my work, flitting from one thing to another. But the fuchsia has been a great a great bonus for them because throughout all the heavy rain, the fuchsia has held its own and the flowers have been there and the bees have been able to feed with a fair amount of protection, because when you look at the layers of the fuchsia above, it's protecting many of the little bees that are coming in underneath to feed. So despite the heavy rain, you know, despite it all, there's been an ongoing open restaurant here for the bees. It's lovely now to walk down the driveway and to hear the sound of the water. Now this is a big laurel that I'm going to be cutting down by about a third or maybe even a half at some point. It's one of the aspects of growing so much that I really love, because when I do go out to cut back and trim back, it's actually a fantastic way of helping to create more. So it's just an ongoing abundance. You can hear all the water now coming down on this ditch behind the hedge there. And you can also hear all the water coming down on this ditch behind the trees. Excuse me. And of course it comes down to about here. You can't even see it now. And goes underneath the road through, I think, 4 or 5 ginormous pipes that I had put in years ago, and comes out there, flows down in that ditch, and as I've often described before, goes about halfway down that road, and then it goes underneath the road in big pipes, down through that field, down to where that oak tree is, and that's where the stream then falls away and down and across the land towards the river Fairish. Now, put this wee sign up, look. Trespassers will be composted. Come on, Jack. So we'll walk back up. So there you go. I've been quite a busy bee. And in between, it's been my second eldest grandson's 21st birthday. So I was out gallivanting a wee bit with him. I wanted to take him out and buy him something special. So that was quite a joy to be able to do that. Because of course 3 or 4 years ago, before I started writing, it was virtually impossible to have any amount of spare money. So thank you to everyone who buys books or supports me on Patreon. Now, you can hear me out of breath, but this is a very steep driveway, okay? You can hear the dampness underfoot. Still a lot more buddleia coming out here. Hear the birds. Jack thinks to himself, now why is she not going for a walk? Well, I will do very soon, Jack. So I've also been taking Jack out twice a day. So we're up to 2 miles a day on our walks. And hoping to build up now to 3. I think if I can do 21 miles a week, that would be good. So you can see the beautiful little fruits there. You can also see then where the birds have been eating them, look. And then underneath, there's a lot of fruits underneath all these evergreen leaves, which again makes them, makes it an ideal feeding ground for when there is heavy rain and such like. The birds can still get in there and feed. So also the carrier, I just noticed yesterday, the carrier, which is one little sort of a bush, has now spread. It's come down this way, right? And that's a beautiful, beautiful shrub for yellow flowers during the spring. So I see some brambles coming through there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get in there, because it's quite easy just to sort of tramp through the rubus and cut back the brambles. I think I'll cut back some of this Photinia and also give the laurels there quite a hard cut back. So that way then, I think the carrier then will be giving quite a magnificent show of itself next spring. Because the thing about, tending a garden or tending the earth, you're thinking about the seasons a lot. You're thinking about the past seasons and what have worked, but then you're projecting forward into the seasons to come and thinking, well, what is it I need to do now to ensure that that is going to be such a way during that season. Absolutely beautiful day. Of course, there's still lots of rain clouds. We've been promised rain now for, at least next week anyway, But I'm not complaining, because being on the front line when it comes to the need for rain, having a spring well, I realise just how valuable that rain is. So you can see now, just looking along the front of the cottage, it's a lot clearer. And here, you can see now, the access is much easier. There's the hydrangea out. So, on that note, I'm going to say blessings to everyone. And don't forget that the books from the Bealtaine Cottage Press can all be found on bealtainecottage.com, and the links are below this video. Blessings to you all, and I hope everything is as lush and promising where you are as it is here, and if not, I hope it happens soon. Blessings to you all from myself and Jack.